President Trump has made that very clear, too. The worst thing that's taken place in Russia and Ukraine is the war. The best thing that's taken place in Europe is the war because all the other countries are waking up, but they're nowhere close to their gross productive output that they should be right now paying comparable to what their defense is, according to the UN agreements that they signed. President Trump is.
Okay, hi. That's Mark Wayne Mullins. You can tell he's from Oklahoma because he's got a cowboy hat. Also, you can tell he's really smart because he thinks there's a UN agreement that tells NATO countries what they're supposed to spend and their gross domestic product, but the war is bad for Russia and bad for Ukraine, but good for Europe. Anyway, we open with that one because we just wanted to show you it's been a crazy week, and I'm not even going to open. So we're just going to kind of talk about the news, y'all, this week. As everybody gathers, we're going to talk about the news. It's been a crazy week for the news, y'all. I mean, you get it. It has been nuts. As you know, we here at Vote Vets focus on veterans issues, national security issues, military family, military service members. Ukraine. I mean, there's something for everybody this week, and that's before we even talk about the craziness, the Memorial Day weekend where Donald Trump posted this crazy rant that had nothing to do with the troops. Before we talk about Donald Trump's speech at West Point, my alma mater, where he talked to the cadets who are graduating that I guess they can aspire to have yachts and trophy wives. I'm still not sure what the hell he was talking about, but nonetheless, here we are. So we're going to go through the news. I am Fred Wellman. As you can see on the screen, I'm a Lieutenant Colonel retired in the United States Army. I am the host of Online Vote Vets. You are in the right place. We're here every Friday at 1 o'clock, whether you like it or not. We're always here. We are here today as everybody gathers. So I just want to kind of go through catch you guys up on a lot of really interesting news. And there's a very good chance you may have missed a lot of this news because a lot of it's kind of covered some unusual places, but very important to understand what's happening as far as the Trump administration, the Republican Congress, their big, beautiful bill, and our veterans and military service members and our national security. So we're going to talk about the news today. If you've got questions as we gather, people can join us to talk about it. It is a lot. Let's start with that. And you guys, I kept throwing stories to JJ as we were getting ready, which is why we're late. And two, he just threw them together. So it's a little bit, we were joking before we went live. This is going to be like story roulette because there's so many of them. So let's talk about this one. This one's a shocking one. So every year, Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation, the VVMF, they call themselves, the people who built the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., the wall, as everyone calls it. So every year for over 30 years, since the wall was built, at the Saturday before Father's Day, they hold a ceremony to honor veterans of Vietnam who have passed away during the last year. As you may know, the Vietnam Wall contains the names of every service member who died in Vietnam or around Vietnam and killed in combat. Now, we also know that many of our fellow veterans from the Vietnam era were exposed to Agent Orange, toxic burn pits, cancer, PTSD, long-term injuries. It was a very, very difficult war in a difficult place. So every year we lose more. And so it's a great tradition they have. They have a plaque there that they honor the veterans who have passed away from the war for the last 30 years. And every year, except during the pandemic, they hold it at the wall, right there on the National Mall. If you know, it's near the Lincoln Memorial, not far from Constitution Avenue near the White House. Except this year. So what happened is, as we're planning the ceremony this year, Donald Trump decided to have his big damn parade. As you know, he's going to have a Memorial Day parade effectively for the Army's 250th birthday, which is on June 14th. But it's also just coincidentally enough, happens to be Donald Trump's birthday. So they're going to have a massive parade on his birthday. Starts at 6 p.m. with the Golden Knights Army parachute team parachuting into the ellipse and giving the president a flag, and then 60 tanks and 60 BFEs and all this thing going down Constitution Avenue from the Pentagon. Then they're going to have a country music concert, of course, a whole big deal. Originally, the Army's plan was to have a few vehicles in the National Mall. That's it. But since then, plans have gone awry. This is the most sickest one of them all. So when the VVMF, the Vietnam Veteran Memorial Foundation, went to talk to the Secret Service about security for the event, they discovered the Secret Service said they could not hold the event at the wall that day because of security around the president's parade. That's right. The people who have died in combat, their family members who honor their sacrifice, will not be allowed to participate in a honor of their fallen brothers and sisters, family members at the wall. over 774 family members were making their way to DC and already booked their tickets for this annual ceremony. We're talking about men in their 80s and their family members. Now, instead of canceling it, VVMF will be moving it to the Masonic Hall. If you're familiar with the Washington, D.C. area, you may see over in Alexandria, Virginia, there's a very tall column. That's the Washington, D.C. Masonic Lodge. And there's the VVMF, the Vietnam Memorial Foundation, is going to move a mobile version of the wall over there and sort of have a remote ceremony. But again, this is all because Donald Trump wanted his own, Korean style parade, Soviet Union style parade. And once again, who pays the price? Our service member veterans. And by the way, this is before we talk about the 6,000 plus service members who they're now telling us are going to be staying on the floors of empty government buildings throughout Washington, D.C. For the weekend. Practicing and marching. They'll be living on cots on the floors of office buildings instead of barracks or hotels or anything else. Each unit will be responsible for paying their own way. The estimate is about $45 million now, although I think that's actually a low ball. It is nuts and getting nuttier. Let's look at the next story. Good one. This is kind of fun, JJ. We should do this every week. Like story roulette. Whatever JJ throws up, I talk about it. It's like a test to see if Fred knows his shit. All right, so here we are. So this one is another. This is really fast. Now, so as you know, one of the biggest things the Trump administration brags about from Trump 1.0 and now Trump 2.0 is expanding community care for military members. One of the things they like to say is that the VA is not doing a good job. It's failing to take care of veterans, and therefore veterans should have the option to go to their own, find their own community care. Now that sounds great, and a lot of veterans want that, and that's fine. But the problem is a lot of veterans simply don't have access to community care. They live in rural areas, they live in urban areas that may not have enough doctors. And one of the biggest worries that us as veteran advocates, professional people who help our veteran service members, as you may know, you probably don't know actually, I owned a advocacy for 10 years that focused on veterans issues. I've been in this business for 15 years. Since I retired from the Army, I've been a veterans advocate. And one of the concerns we've always had is that community care does not have the specialists who understand the needs and unique experiences of veterans, right? And of all of those experiences, clearly the mental health care experience is a unique one. What veterans go through between combat, exposure, losing friends, it's a very unique experience. So one of the biggest worries we've always had is that the mental health care available to veterans in the community care system isn't good enough. Well, the Journal of American Medicine, JAMA, put out a story this week. A paper was published in JAMA highlighting that those veterans who receive mental health care through the purchased community care face a higher suicide rate and lower satisfaction. That's pretty damning. And maybe you may not even have heard about this. So that's why we're talking. This is a very, very dangerous thing. Veterans with military, they're not satisfied with the care. Again, funding for VA community care has increased by over 130%, $10.6 billion since 2014. But quality has remained, in every review they've done, the quality of care has remained almost flat. Among 231,869 veterans involved in the study, those with mental health conditions consistently rated their experience with VA purchased community care lower across 9 categories than their peers without mental health care conditions or those getting their mental health care directly from the VA. They've expanded this. I mean, this has been a huge, this was Trump's big flagship thing. Even though President Obama is the one who signed the law originally, Trump has been all over community care. Look, a lot of us know that community care is in many ways sort of a Trojan horse for privatizing the VA. Let's not, I'm not going to pull bones on this one, okay? We all know many advocacy groups have been using the community care model as this way to say, well, why do we even have all these hospitals? And you have to remember the VA is a huge system, and we'll talk about that later too. Now, across the U.S., around 41% of veterans have some type of mental health need, but among them, fewer than 50% who need mental health treatment actually get it. Suicide rates were found to be about 21% higher for veterans who received VA-purchased community care services among those who received direct care from VHA, 21% higher than those getting health care from the Veterans Health Administration. Actually, suicide rates were actually lower among veterans who did not receive community care or VHA care services. There's layers of that one I'm not going to talk about. But recipients of community care tend to be young male living in rural areas with less access to VHA services. But it's a great burden of the risk factors from that. Around 30% of veterans with mental health conditions also had 3 or more serious health conditions in addition to behavioral health. I could go on rambling off numbers for you, but it's very important. And why we talk about this so much right now, this is a big priority for Doug Collins and the current administration of the VA. One of the few areas that they want to increase funding for is community care. They're frantically cutting 83,000 people, which we'll talk about in the next story, I think, or more. They're cutting thousands of actual service healthcare providers and others at the VA itself, meanwhile dumping more money into community care. Hey, look, insurance companies love it. The private healthcare industry loves it. It's more patients for them. Look, we got 15 million living veterans, y'all. 15 million. Some 9 million of them are enrolled in the VA and 6 million get healthcare. That's a lot of money for those who want to take advantage of it. But this study is a little bit shocking. I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more news. I mean, the only place I saw it talked about was Behavioral Health Business Magazine. It seems like a really big issue that veterans are facing higher suicide rates who get private care. Yet, nonetheless, that's why you come here, I guess. Big story. Next story, JJ. Ding, 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 ding. Exactly what I wanted. This is so exciting. I love this. All right. So this story goes right into that one we just talked about. So what's happening is, as we mentioned, they have cut, they've already cut about 2,400 employees at the VA. They've also offered early retirements and early outs to many more. In the meantime, they have increased the burden of management dramatically. I have friends that work at VA that tell me almost no days go by where they don't get some top-down email from all the way from the VA's headquarters in DC saying, by tomorrow at noon, we need an assessment of all 30 of your employees, or by tomorrow at 10, we need to know who lives remote and who doesn't. Just constant. So morale is plummeting inside their Department of Veterans Affairs. This story from Washington Post, as tens of thousands of them face uncertainty because Doug Collins announced 3 months ago that he intends to cut 83,000 employees of the VA, but didn't say who it would be. That's 15% of the workforce they want to cut, but didn't say who it would be. After they announced that incredible number, they said, we're going to look into who it should be. Now imagine you're an employee. If you were in a private company and they just announced, hey, we're going to fire 15% of you, but we'll let you know when. So what's happening now is people who can get other jobs, nurses, doctors, they're hitting the road. They don't want to wait for the axe to fall. And this is causing huge problems at the VA, although at the same time, they're denying it. The uncertainty is already taking a toll. Thousands of employees have already opted for early retirement in about 2 waves already. Many of these are leaving out of fear of being laid off anyway. This is some of the quotes in this article really matter, you guys. This is a quote: "The veterans now check in and ask us how we are doing," one social worker at a hospital in the Great Lakes region told the Washington Post. They see the news and they're very aware of the circumstances and fearful of losing the VA support they depend on. A contract at the VA Medical Center, Palo Alto, California, described employees of the VA as fearful, paranoid, and demoralized. Now, this is what we expect. Now, I wanted to read this one to you too, you guys, because this is shocking. So when they asked Peter Kasperowitz, who is the VA's spokesman, he said that he pointed to problems the agency existed for years. He said, during the Biden administration, VA failed to address nearly all of its most serious problems, such as benefits backlogs, rising healthcare wait times, and major survivor benefits. The far left Washington Post refused to cover these failures because it would have the Biden administration look bad. Specifically responding to concerns employees shared about morale, he said the Post was to blame. The people you spoke with are probably being misled by the Washington Post's dishonest, far-left fear-mongering. Sure, that's literally what he said. So it's the media's fault for reporting on what's happening and not the fact that they've decided they're going to cut 15% of the people that work there and not said who it would be. With almost 500,000 employees, the VA is the second largest VA or federal agency behind the DoD. They care for more than 9 million veterans, as I mentioned, 107 VA medical centers, 1,193 outpatient clinics. This is incredible, and they've grown. This is the last quote I want to leave with in this story because it's unbelievable. And I see your comments, guys. It's so good to see so many familiar names and faces. This is the last quote. This quote got me hard. Iraq felt safer than being a VA employee currently does, a veteran and VA communications worker probably told Hill staffers in a written submission shared with the Washington Post. Quote, "My leadership in Iraq cared about me as a human and didn't just see me as a number." These are the people who have volunteered their lives, signed up to work at the VA and take care of our veterans. And that's the kind of demoralizing they're facing, thanks to Doug Collins and his cadre of leaders that he's brought in this administration in just 4 months. In just 4 months. So any lie that says this isn't going to affect veterans' health care is just that, a lie. And as many times as Doug Collins wants to put out business, he puts out stats that cannot be confirmed or verified. The truth of the matter is we all know how big VA expanded under the Biden administration, under the Democratic leadership of the Senate, when they passed the PACT Act, and 1 million veterans got health care they weren't able to have before. And now they want to cut all of that and say it's not going to hurt us. The truth is willing. I mean, imagine, I've heard this story so many times. People ask their therapist, they'll be there the next week. And we just talked a story about how suicide rates are 21% higher for veterans who get community mental health care than they do from the VA. Tough story, but we'll be staying on it. Next story, JJ. Okay, this one. Oh my gosh. I should have stretched for this one, JJ. Okay, this one. All right, this one's crazy, y'all. I didn't know where to go with this one. Oh, yeah, so we'll start at the top. So if you didn't see this one, let's go over to DOD. So DOD, as you know, had Signalgate. We all remember Signalgate. Who could forget Signalgate? And what happened was it was allegedly, okay, this is so complicated. Remember Signalgate, and then after Signalgate, there was the leaks of plans about the Panama Canal invasion and all these things. Well, supposedly a plan about a potential Panama Canal invasion was leaked to a reporter. And suddenly, a couple weeks after the Signalgate thing, several aides of Secretary Hegseth were all fired. Dan Caldwell and others, people we know, were fired from the the SecDef's office. But this is where it gets crazy. The Guardian has this incredible story. The White House has lost confidence in the Pentagon leak investigation that Pete Hegseth used to justify firing these 3 top aides, after advisors are told that the aides had supposedly been outed by an illegal, warrantless National Security Agency wiretap. So for those who don't understand, I know a lot of you aren't veterans, the NSA, the National Security Agency, is controlled by the Secretary of Defense. It is a military intelligence organization. It falls under the purview of the Secretary of Defense. The story that's being floated is that Tim Parlator, who is Hegseth's personal attorney, was tasked with overseeing the investigation, and he told someone that they had used an NSA wiretap on the aides' phones to find out they had done it. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary twist that is hard to believe. The leak was first attributed internally to Hegseth's senior advisor, Dan Caldwell, who I mentioned. He was escorted out of the Pentagon and fired last month alongside those other 2 aides that we mentioned, Deputy Chief of Staff Darren Selnick and Deputy Secretary Chief of Staff Colin Carroll. But the illegal wiretap claim and Caldwell's denials fueled a huge breakdown in trust with the Pentagon and the White House, where Trump's advisors are watching this unfold and privately suggest they no longer have any idea who or what to believe. In other words, the White House itself doesn't believe their own Secretary of Defense and his staff as they report information to the White House, his own boss. It's bad. The aides, of course, have denied any of this. They've said they didn't do it. At the beginning of the things, what the story was apparent at the White House that they were told that there was evidence that Dan Caldwell had printed the document on the plans for the Panama Canal, classified it top secret, took a photo, and sent this photo to a reporter using his personal phone. But by the end of April, it was clear that wasn't what happened. And other investigations found that the actual piece of paper that was leaked to the reporter was an earlier draft, not the one that Caldwell was accused of having access to. It's gotten stupider and stupider. And the thing about Parlator is he's really just... He's Hegseth's personal attorney. He represents a lot of people who've been accused of things, including Admiral Burke, who's just got convicted of a massive bribery scheme. Pardonor, of course, is now denying he ever said anything about a wiretap, but nobody believes him. There's really, in Washington, the rumor mill is that they really did tap using National Security Agency resources, which are dedicated to only overseas intelligence. They use NSA assets to tap friends of Hegseth. This is the Pete Hegseth Defense Department. But it gets worse. There's another story about the Pentagon. Yeah, you're looking at that one right. So it came out very quietly this week that the Pentagon under Hegseth is diverting $1 billion. I got to say it like this, $1 billion from Army barracks improvement to fund this ridiculous border mission that they're paying for. Yeah, they're going to redirect barracks funding. It erodes much of the additional money that Marty had started. So let's start at the beginning. For many years, barracks maintenance has been a very big challenge to the military. But under the Biden administration, the view was that improving life, improving how people live in the military, improving their well-being was key to being ready for warfighting. That a warfighter who is well taken care of, lives in safe housing conditions, doesn't have black mold making them sick, is a better warrior. Well, that didn't last long. This erodes. They'd put $1 billion in the budget, this budget that has now been set aside for this agenda of taking care of the border. The shift of our border money, or barracks money to the border, was laid out in a wide-ranging Defense Department plan sent to Congress on May 8th to move funding between programs. If you know the system, the Army has, the military, the cabinet agencies have quite a bit of they have the ability to move dollars around from different buckets, but they do have to inform Congress. So they inform Congress they're going to move this money away from the soldier housing. Now, here's where it gets really stupid. Hegseth's whole thing is that he's the war fighter, that for the first time in history, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and the Pentagon have the junior soldiers back. This is something he talks about all the time. He served 11 years in the National Guard. He's always portrays them. Just at Fort Bragg last week, he told the soldiers there that I've been in your boots. And the message for the commander-in-chief straight from 1600 Pennsylvania is he has your back. And then at the same time he was saying that, they stopped repairing the barracks across the United States Army so they could send guys down to the border to sit on a hill and watch nothing happen. It very much reflects the change in Army's priorities. Again, tying soldier well-being has been a big part of the Army. It was people first, quality of life first. That is no longer the case. Now it's always about, the mantra was people. Now it's all about war fighting and acquisition. This funding move, as the story says, is kind of deja vu if you've watched defense budget before. Trump did the exact same thing during his first term when he transferred $1 million from the personnel budget that was supposed to fund bonuses and reenlistment money for soldiers. Instead of giving them reenlistment bonuses money, they took $1 billion and put it towards 57 miles of the fence line. That's what they use the money for. Just 57 miles of fence instead of giving soldiers bonuses and enlistment bonuses. Once again, here we are again. And once again, they're doing the same thing. This time it's going to be our soldiers' barracks that are desperately in need of help and simply won't be repaired now because this is more of a priority. Next story. This is a good one. I think this is our last one, as a matter of fact. Phew! Half an hour of news this time. We are so excited. As you know, Vote Vets is highly involved. Our mission is to help elect veterans and others to Congress, national security experts to Congress, and other offices all the way down to the local level. We're very excited about Joanna Mendoza is running for Arizona's 6th congressional district. It's a purple seat. It's a swing district. She is running. She just launched her campaign. We endorsed her right away. She's vying for a chance to take on Representative Juan Kiscomani in the general election. They've come close a couple times. Joanna is a fascinating person. She served in the United States Navy at the age of 17. She did 3 years in the Navy, and then she moved over to the Marine Corps, where she became a drill instructor and deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. She has over a 20-year military career, so she's truly a veteran of the combat and the service. She's angling to win this. She's had a very impressive first quarter. $816,000 was raised in her first quarter, and she's already gotten the endorsement of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus's Bold Pack. It's truly a purple seat, so we're very proud to endorse her early and support her campaign. These are the seats we need to flip the House back to the Democrats and make sure all the stories that we all just talked about for the last half hour stop. From outrageous national security leaks in the Pentagon to the complete dismembering and dismantling of the VA that takes care of so many of our veterans and their health care. So we're going to keep on fighting. So we're very proud of Joanna Mendoza. We're very proud to endorse her. As you know, we've endorsed Maura Sullivan, New Hampshire 1. And of course, we really endorse Abigail Spanberger, who's running for governor of Virginia, one of our largest endorsements in history, because these races are so key. So if you haven't heard, this is an election year, folks. 2025, we have elections in New Jersey and Virginia and elsewhere. So we appreciate you getting in the fight with us. We appreciate you supporting the candidates we support. You can go to our website, votevets.org, and learn more about our endorsements and who we're talking with and support them. And you know what? Give them a little cash too would be great. It'd be a great way to go, and we can have it. Now, as you also know, I'm going to wrap things up quickly. We have a lot going on in the country right now. You may have heard about some protests that are occurring. A number of groups are organizing protests across the country in the next 2 weeks to support veterans, to support our military, to make sure they understand that the government understands not to dismantle our military. We encourage you to go out, support those protests, show up in person and raise your hand peacefully, and raise your hand and let them know that this is not acceptable behavior and we won't have it. Write letters to your papers, send in op-eds, and more than anything, reach out to your senators and your members of Congress and your local leaders to let them know that it's not acceptable to see things like higher suicide rates while they're giving more money to that organization that does that, okay? It's not acceptable for our soldiers to live in moldy barracks instead of getting taken care of like they properly should be. Those are the things we should not accept as Americans, whether you're a veteran or a military family member or not. That's what we all fight for, because if we really get in a fight, this is the stuff that's going to hurt us forever. It's going to be hard to put people in the military like that. One of the things I like to talk about a lot, you guys, is, the military is a family business. I think I've told my story a few times, but for those who don't know, my grandfather was a World War I vet. My father was a World War II vet. I'm a veteran of Iraq and Desert Storm. My son's a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. My son-in-law still serves. The military is a family business in every way, and we're already seeing that the way the military is treated will cause veterans not to encourage their family members to join. So in the long run, we hurt the all-volunteer force, because the main source of like 30% of our service members is family, and they're saying, I lived in moldy barracks. They took away my money and made it for a border mission that doesn't matter. It's just all for show, okay? They are going to care about that. And that means we won't have that next generation of warriors that we need, they talk about so much. So write that letter, join those protests. There's some great groups organizing them. We've got a lot of friends doing it. I won't go through the whole list, but you can find out more. In the meantime, we'd love to have you join with us. You can go to votevets.org is our website. That's where you can learn more about us. There's two big buttons we talk about a lot there. That's the donate button, because we got to pay for endorsements, and the take action button, so you can hear about things we are doing. As you know, we had the town hall in Iowa with Pete Buttigieg a couple weeks ago. We reached out to folks in our list to come there, and that's how they found out about it. So if you want to learn more about the things that are going on at our level, we encourage you highly to join and take action and do that. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, this all costs a little bit of money, and we'd appreciate your donation, and we promise to put it to good use. Finally, all of our social media is Vote Vets. You can't miss it, at Vote Vets. Super easy to spell. That's it. So go to @VoteVets on all of our channels. We'd love you to follow. We're growing our YouTube channel very aggressive. We'd love to have you join us there. I know not all of you are there. I can see Facebook. I can see everywhere. It's great to see you guys. I think we've got new places. It's all great to have you guys. We'd love seeing you every week. Most important thing I'd like you to ask you to do is take your calendar out right now. Take your calendar out and say 1 o'clock Eastern every Friday. Vote Vets on the line with Vote Vets is live. We'd love to see you here every week. Look for more content on all of our social channels. I'm not going to keep you. I am Fred Wellman. This is Online with Vote Vets. Come back next week for a new update and some really cool guests. I'd love to talk to you then. In the meantime, let's hang in there.